If you bless something with specific words and also with your intention, even just a thought, that thing turns, quote, positive and can help you. If you curse something with specific words or even just a thought, that thing changes and can hurt you or the person.
This is the Kevin Trudeau Show.
I am exposing the corruption in government and in major multinational corporations. We're telling you the things that they don't want you to know that will make your life better.
Your body is 70% water. So think about that for a second. Your body is 70% water. Your brain is over 85% water. Okay, so just think about that for a minute and now put that off to the side. So just remember that. Years ago, there was a researcher, Dr. Masaru Emoto, and he did some amazing research and published this research. This research has been documented. It has been substantiated. It has been duplicated many, many times. It's not new research. It was also talked about in the Old Testament of the Bible. It was talked about in Kabbalah, which is from the Jewish mysticism book Zohar. It's talked about in Islam, in the Quran, and also in the mysticism of Islam. And it's also talked about at great length in both the Vedas, which are the holiest books in the Indian culture, you can call it Hindu, and the other scriptural text or epics of India, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and some of the other books there. It's also talked about by the indigenous Aboriginal people of Australia. It's also talked about by the Native Americans and also many of the tribes in Africa. What is this thing that everyone talks about? This thing is that when you pray or bless something, that something changes. If you curse something, that something also changes. If you bless something with specific words and also with your intention, even just a thought, that thing turns, quote, positive and can help you. If you curse something with specific words or even just a thought, that thing changes and can hurt you or the person. All right. That's the one thing that is universal. Emoto said, let's see if this is true. How can we determine this? Is this just myth? Is just this something that's talked about in these religious texts or spiritual texts and really has no validity scientifically? So here's what he did. He said, let's get some water. Let's freeze the water. Let's take a sliver of the water, because now it's crystallized. Let's look at it under a microscope and see what the crystals look like. So he would take one sample of water, let's say tap water, and he would put it in 10 different cylinders, freeze them, take a sliver of each one, put it under a microscope, and they would all look exactly the same. The shape of the crystals that were formed, like snowflakes, looked exactly the same because it came from the same water sample. So then he'd take another water sample. The first water sample was tap water, and the crystals looked at a certain shape. Then he took spring water, and he would do the same thing. He'd take a bottle of spring water, put it in 10 different cylinders, freeze it, take a sliver out of each one, look at each one, and they all looked identical. They looked different than the tap water, but they all look the same. So he could say, this is spring water, this is tap water. The crystals look different. the spring water, the crystals looked more beautiful. And he would take different spring waters, and they all looked beautiful, but they were all different. And there was consistency. Okay, that research has been proven and documented and verified and double-blind studied and duplicated. And okay, so that's empirical evidence. It's true that the crystals in a water sample are always consistent. And depending on where the water comes from, the crystals are different. Okay, so that's our baseline. And here's where the research gets interesting. He now took some water. He looked at the crystals. They all looked the same. He took the same water, put it in a beaker, and on the outside of the beaker, he would write a word. In English, by the way. But he also did it writing words in Japanese and in Arabic and in Sanskrit. It didn't matter. He would take the same word, let's say, thank you, and he would put it in English, he'd put it in Sanskrit, he'd put it in Arabic and German and Spanish and French, Japanese, Chinese, the word thank you. He put the water in the beakers. All he did different, the same water, and he already has the baseline, so he knows what the water looks like as a crystal. He takes the water, put it in a beaker. On the outside of the first beaker, it says thank you in English. The second beaker says thank you in Japanese. The next one is thank you in Chinese, etc. He freezes it, takes a sliver out, looks at it under a microscope. The crystals now no longer looked like the normal crystal of the water sample. The crystals have changed. Simply by putting a word on the outside of the beaker, it changed the structure, the molecular structure of the water. And it didn't matter if the word thank you was written in English or Japanese or Chinese or Arabic or French or German, the crystal would come out the same. So I'm going to show you a picture of the crystal that comes out with the word thank you. So if you look on the screen, this is the beautiful crystal that comes out when the word thank you is put on the beaker. All right. Now, here's the next test he did. He said, I just put the word on the outside of the beaker. You mean the actual letters have a vibrational frequency? Yes. So he said, let me do something else. So we took the same water. This is the basic baseline tap water. Puts it in 10 beakers. He picks up the first beaker and he looks at it and he says, thank you. And then he looks at each one and says to each one, he just looks at the water, just looks at it and says the word thank you in different languages. He freezes it, slices it, looks under the microscope, and guess what? The structure of the water changed. It's no longer the same as the baseline. It's, again, the same crystal that you see here. Thank you. So whether he put thank you on the beaker in writing, regardless of the language, or he simply said thank you to the beaker, the crystal changed into this shape. Test number 3. He then looked at the beakers with the water in it, again, fresh water, tap water, closed his eyes and just thought. He didn't say anything out loud. There was nothing written on the outside of the beaker. He just sent energy to. He just thought. He just pictured in his head the beaker of water and he thought, thank you. And this was done in different languages with different people because he can't speak all the languages. The water was frozen. Crystals would test under a microscope. And here you go again. Thank you. Whether it was the word, whether it was spoken, or whether it was just thought, it changed the molecular structure of the water. Now, let me show you a little chart here. Let's put these up. You can see what happened when the word wisdom was used. It's a different molecular structure. Let's look at what happens when the word truth is used, either as a word, either as a spoken word or a thought. Look at the word eternal. And again, it doesn't matter if it's in English or what language. Look at angel. Now look at I love you. So if you say I love you to someone or even think it, look at the beautiful structure that's created in water with that frequency, either in words, spoken words, written words, or a thought. Look at peace. Now, let's look at this. You fool. If you call somebody you fool or think of somebody you fool, look what it does to the water. You've cursed the water. Look at you make me sick. Look at what happens to the structure of water with the words or thought or spoken words, you make me sick. Look at the word evil, what it does to water. Now, here's a before and after photo. Polluted water before prayer. That same polluted water, an hour later, after prayer. When you pray, you're changing the structure of water. When you bless something, you're changing the structure of water. And this is everyone. When you have words written in your house on the wall and water sees those words, the structure of water is changed for the positive or the negative. When you're playing music and words are being spoken, oh, bitch, I'm going to fuck you up, blah, 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 blah. It's having an adverse effect on the water structure. When you have beautiful music being played with beautiful lyrics, it's having a positive effect on the water. When you think positive thoughts, it's having a positive effect on the water. You are 70% water, remember? Your brain is 85% water, remember? When you curse somebody, you're adversely affecting them because it's affecting the water in their body. When you send blessings to someone, it's positively affecting them. It's because it's changing the molecular structure of the water in their body. But here's the good news and the bad news. When you curse somebody, yes, it's adversely affecting them, but the research shows that it has a 100 times more negative effect on the water in your body. When you think a negative thought towards someone else, yes, it's affecting them. We've done research on stage where we do muscle testing and everybody in the room sends a negative thought to the person. They don't know if it's negative or positive because we tell everyone, I'm going to hold up a 1 and think a negative thought. If I hold up a 2, think a positive thought. And the person doesn't know what's what. He has his arm out. We do a muscle test and we hold up something the person can't see, but everyone in the audience, they say, go ahead. And then we just go, that was a negative thought. And then we hold it up again, negative thought. 2 guys can get on and it won't move. They're throwing positive thoughts at you. So in double-blind testing, nobody knows whether it's a positive or negative thought, but it affects the body dramatically. So when you think a positive thought towards somebody, it's empowering them and helping them. When you throw a negative thought at them, it's hurting them. But it's hurting you 100 times more. We know this in the testing. So when you think a negative thought towards somebody else, yes, you're adversely affecting them, but you're hurting yourself 100 times more. But when you think a positive thought towards somebody else, oh, I wish you do well. I want you to do well. I forgive you. I love you. I love you. I want the best for you. I see God in you. I see you as God. I know you didn't mean that. If you knew who you were, you wouldn't have said or done that. And I love you regardless. When you send those type of thoughts toward people, not only does it help them, it empowers you 100 times more. It positively impacts your body even more because you're water. This is why in your home, when you have paintings or words that are beautiful, that have high frequency and vibration, it positively impacts you. If you have words that are in books, like the Guru Kev lesson book that's available, that I have, it is just impacted with energy, and it fills everything in the room, including you, by creating. And we've done research. You have that Guru Kev book, and then if I take some water in the room, and just take tap water, and test it, just in the same room, and I take the Guru Kev book and put it there, and now we test the tap water. It's because it's been blessed. It's like been prayed over, like the picture here. I'll show it to you again. Polluted water before prayer. Polluted water after prayer. This is why when I have food, people always say, I'm not fanatical when it comes to what I eat and what I don't eat. Yes, I have preferences. For example, I shy away from things with monosodium glutamate in it, or artificial sweeteners, or high fructose corn syrup, or any corn product. And if it's ultra processed, I stay away from it. If it's got pork in it, I stay away, or shellfish, or there's things I stay away from, right? But if I go over to your house and you're feeding me, I don't ask what's in it. I bless the food. Because it's just like taking polluted water, and with a blessing, I can make it beautiful. I don't eat it every day, but I know it's going to be okay because I bless it first energetically. And since most food, especially fruits and vegetables, are mostly water, I'm turning it around. I'm turning the food structure around with my thoughts. This is powerful. Hi, I'm Kevin Trudeau. This is everything they don't want you to know about to improve the quality of your life. Broadcasting every Monday and Wednesday, 2 days a week now. Monday and Wednesday at 1 o'clock Chicago time. Make sure you tune in and subscribe to the channel and share these shows with everyone you know.